I've interviewed a lot of people that have been through hardship, being like traumatized. Every person that's in those kind of environments, none of them ever want to identify themselves as a victim. If you're talking to somebody that just allows you to continually boo-hoo about how bad your life is, doesn't challenge you, doesn't ask you what you're doing to change it, then you're just going to continue to go into that, and that becomes who you are. That person will stay in that place until something bigger forces them out of it.
Well, I feel like there's some fundamental truths that apply to all human beings. And the fundamental truth of us having adversity in some form or fashion is there for all of us. And I feel like you have the choice to either, bring that on, self-impose it, become hardened, harder to kill, and resilient,
Yeah.
and proactive, in which case you have that victor mentality, and then you just approach any form of hardship as an opportunity. Like, okay, this is happening to me for a reason. How can I leverage it? Versus the woe is me victim mentality. And like you have the choice as to how you do it. I mean, you're going to have hard either way. Like you either bring it on intentionally or it comes to you reactively. And it's unfortunate to see it play out in the reactive state, because I mean, I've got family and close friends that have this victim mentality, and like I want the best for them. I want them to be able to see that they can be empowered. But it's like hard to train that. Like I don't know, like how old are you, Marcus?
53.
53. All right, I'm 33, so you got me beat by a little bit.
A little bit.
Do you have this notion of like the younger generation? Like, do you think it's a generational thing? Do you think it is nature versus nurture thing? Do you think it's an environmental? Like, what do you think that that catalyst is that creates the victim mentality to begin with?
I think it's all those things, but I would say that so the younger generations we see now are more involved in therapy or going to see somebody to talk to about stuff. But I had a woman on my show named Sarut Chawla. She's a British psychologist. And she was saying that in her opinion, like less than 3/4 of the people that are doing those things as like counselors or psychologists are really even qualified to do it in a legitimate manner. And she also said that there is about 90% of them have this very like liberal ideology. And I'm not trying to like create like a divide in the room, but people that are conservative usually have this idea of pulling themselves up by the bootstraps, trying to be independent, trying to have some sort of agency in their life. If you're talking to somebody that just allows you to continually boo-hoo about how bad your life is, doesn't challenge you, doesn't ask you what you're doing to change it, then you're just going to continue to go into that, and that becomes who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that first adversity perception cycle repeated. And now you have somebody, because now when you go to them, what do? They talk about how they went to their psychologist or their counselor today, and they were saying, I do have it really bad, and I need to just, give myself some grace. And so what are they doing? They're encouraging mediocrity. They're encouraging that person to not take any agency in their life. We're also finding that there are so many people now what I have found too is I've interviewed a lot of people that have been through hardship. And every person that I know that's actually been through legitimate hardship, like being molested as a kid, being beaten, not knowing where their food's going to come from, being like traumatized. I interviewed a woman, Jessica Buchanan, who was the one that was actually captured by Somali pirates. Obama had to have the Navy SEAL team to come in to get her. And every person that's in those kind of environments, none of them ever want to identify themselves as a victim. They don't, because they had everything that they own, their will, ripped away from them. They never want to identify as that. The people that I see that are constantly doing that or using this victim mentality, using this victim vernacular, calling everybody that they don't like an undiagnosed narcissist. Anybody that pushes back against them is gaslighting them. It's like, no. Anybody that doesn't tolerate them throwing a tantrum, or anybody that actually asks them to be at a standard as an employee, for example, to be on time, to be in uniform. Those are the bare minimums. And I was like, oh, that's too much stress for me. Those are the people that are choosing that mediocrity over and over again. And they're around people that encourage it. So the people that needed the most help are the ones that never call themselves victims in the first place. The ones that are kind of stuck in this, just stay in it. But this is the beauty of adversity. They think they're facing something big right now. But what will happen is there will be a bigger adversity that punches them in the face and forces them to take action. That larger adversity will be much harder to overcome than this little one that they're making into something bigger than what it is. So that adversity will be a blessing for them. The problem is, if you are not prepared for it, it can be like devastating and it can put them in an even deeper hole in the process. So if you don't understand that that is part of it, if you don't choose it on your own, it's going to be hard. And I have friends and family that are like that too. We can't change anybody, right? But the best way for us to create impact on them, to actually influence them, is through a demonstration of who we are, what we do. All leadership begins with self-leadership. So, like your boys, Crystal, obviously, you guys just live that. It is not even a question. Work ethic is built in. Being physical is built in. Being outside is built in. All those things. That's never going to be something where they have to wonder to themselves, is it a good idea to work out? Oh, they know that it's good. Is diet important? Yeah, they know it is. It's just you've given it to them so they understand it. Right now, people are willfully choosing to stay in that place. J.C. Glick, the Army Ranger battalion leader, said that there are casualties and there are victims. So in combat, if a person has this mentality of being a casualty, they'll keep fighting the whole time. If I'm down and you pick me up, I'm going to be shooting behind you to protect us as we try to get to cover. But if I'm a victim, I'm going to be injured long before I need to be. I'm going to be that person who gives up the fight. I'm going to look for any excuse. So the minute that there's even the slightest inconvenience, I'll use that as an opportunity to not work. And then that becomes that self-perpetuating thing. And then Dr. Anthony Chaffee talks about these. There's like type 1, type 2 diabetes. He calls cancer a form of diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
He calls anything neurological, like deficit-wise, Parkinson's. These are form of basically
type 3 diabetes.
These diabetes,
Alzheimer's
right?
dementia, yeah.
And that's what it all comes down to. So now this person is eating crappy food. They're not exercising. They're not taking good care of themselves. And now they get overweight, pre-hypertensive. Guess what? Now they're type 1 diabetic somehow. And now they're in that place. So that person will stay in that place until something bigger forces them out of it. And that's when they have to have that dark night of the soul. They have to decide who they want to become on the other side of it.
I feel like life obviously tends to get harder as you get older. Like I look at Hazen now, 6 weeks old, 7 weeks old, and like he's got food on tap.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he's crying, he gets attended to. He sleeps as long as he wants. Like if the world threw him a hard ball, he wouldn't handle it. He's 6 weeks old. He's out of luck. Like we're at his beck and call. And it's like that's obviously not building any physical or mental or emotional fortitude. Like he needs hardship. And as he gets older, we'll subject it to him. Like I look at Rigel, he's 3 years old. If there's things that he's doing that he shouldn't, there's consequences to it. That's his form of hardship. Like if he, isn't picking up his toys, we take his toys away until he learns to pick them up or something. Like that's his idea of hardship. Again, nothing serious. But like as you age, you have to be like on this stair-stepper approach to like dealing with adversity, acclimating to it, gaining that perspective, and then learning how to see how it transcends the physical thing you're doing just then, but like applies to other areas of your life. So I'm looking at people that for whatever reason don't have that mental resolve. They don't have that ability to see the good in the adversity. And it's like, where did they go wrong? And it's like, man, it really puts the emphasis on parenting. And because like those early years are monumental. Because if you get to, 10 years old, didn't have a good father figure in your life, already have bad habits in place, and then you start being subjected to adversities of the world outside of your, inner family dynamic unit, it's like you're just a dick to other people, you're a nuisance, you're stealing stuff, like, it all just goes downhill pretty early on in a child's adolescence development. So, I mean, having good parenting, I think, is probably the biggest pivotal priority in making this, trend in the right direction. But then you look at people that, came from that had that just stripped from them early on. Like they had no father figure, they were foster care, whatever the case may be. And like you hear the success stories of them.
Yes.
Like how do they figure that out? How do they tap into it? I don't know. Like I come from a pretty good home. Like how does that individual, you know, rise up to the challenge and become a functioning member of society?
And that's the, like you said, the nature versus nurture type thing, or, you know, so I talked to Dean Stott. He's a former British Special Forces Commando SAS guy, and he grew up in foster care. And so for him, because they brought him in and they were saying the same thing that we are, they were saying, listen, we have guys that are in better condition physically for Special Forces in Great Britain now, but their mental fortitude is like non existent. Their grit is not even there. And he said, they need to have it before we get there. He's like, we can build on what they have, but I can't build something that you don't have yet. So for him, all those people that I saw, and I've interviewed these people that, and there's a direct correlation, just like you're saying, to how much adversity that they can endure, how much they can channel it into a purpose, and then how they can actually leverage it into something that makes them better. So for him, he had a younger sister with him. So when they were in foster care, and if anybody approached them in any capacity, that warrior in him came up. And so at 6 years old, he's pushing back and punching against, it doesn't matter who it is. So he had that fight or flight built into him, and that's who he became. These adversities that we have at a young age, they become super developed, and they actually become, in some ways, a positive coping mechanism for us. So for him, that was just always who he was. He was 130 pounds, but yet he could do pull-ups all day. He could run all day, sit-ups all day. And for those sort of behaviors in the military, that's what they need. They need that guy that's not going to quit, that has endurance, that is strong enough physically and mentally with the grit to get to where he needs to go. The people that have never been pushed, that have never been challenged, they don't understand that they have this choice to do what they need to do. At a young age, that's very, like you said, from when I was studying child psychology, it was, I believe, 0 to 6 or 5 was that developmental phase where if you can lock in with them at that age, everything else is golden. After that, it's a challenge. After that, it's a fight. Because once they get past a certain age, the only way that they're going to learn is through adversity. That will only teach them the lessons that they have. You can be the best father or the best mom in the world, but if they are not willing to do those things on their own, then they'll figure it out the hard way. So there's also people that, how do I say it? We don't always see the gift of adversity as it happens in real time. It's hard. You have to get past it so we can look back on it in hindsight. And if you think about what I'm saying, think about hard times in your life, like guys in the military, like you just did this 50-mile march, right?
Mhm.
50-mile march. How many times did you want to quit?
Funny story on that. So this is the fifth year I've done it. It's gotten easier every year. This was by far the best recovery. Like I felt great. We raised the most money, the
No
most
crutches.
people walking,
Yeah,
no
no
crutches.
crutches, yeah.
I mean, I went for a run on Tuesday when I got back. Like I felt great. But like when you get past 20 miles, your feet hurt. I don't care who you are. Like Jonathan Shane did it with me. He's an ultra endurance runner. His feet are hurting at 20 miles. Like they just hurt. There was a guy there doing the 50-mile march with us that didn't have the use of his legs. He wheelchaired 50 miles. There's videos of him going up a freaking incline gravel road, wheelchairing it. We're wheelchairing it. So like anytime throughout that whole 22 hours where I'm like, man, my feet freaking hurt, I would look over at him and be like, shut the hell up, Robert.
You
You
got
know?
feet.
Yeah, I've got feet. I feel like that's a good tool you could use. Like
Mhm.
somebody's always got it worse. Somebody's always got, and they're doing it. And if they're doing it and they got it worse, shut the hell up.
1,000%. It's that adversity scale, right? we have different spheres in our life, different circles. But if you look at the scale of like what your 10 for adversity is, you'll see that there's a lot that you can do. And then if you look at, so 10 is the worst thing you've ever been through, the hardest thing. 0 is like heaven on earth. So like you're saying, you look at what's the hardest thing you've ever done. And then if you look at somebody else's adversity scale as well, like in this case, like, man, I have nothing to complain about. If we all saw the hardship that other people were bearing and we put all that stuff onto a table, we would gladly pull our problems back, embarrassed.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Savage Clip. If you want to see the full-blown deep dive, check out the full episode here, and I'll see you there.